It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and texts for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
The Hyperspace.
Podcasting in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the hyperspace. Podcasting in the 25th century, the interweb's first and still only podcast. My name is Jared.
My name's Matt.
And my name is Mike.
You know, guys, what we're going to talk about this evening is it's not a great day,
Yeah.
but you know, I got to say, James Earl Jones passed away on September 9th, 2024, as it is measured in the old calendar. And of course, we were being from the 25th century. We knew this day was coming. We knew it was coming, but that didn't make it any easier. But, you know, James Earl Jones, he was 93 years old. He had a very full, rich life. I mean, it could be argued. Fame and fortune and longevity, a family who loved him. So I'm not calling his death a tragedy. I refuse to do so. But it is sad that his pipes have been permanently silenced. That's a heck of a run.
That is a good run. And he had a pretty good go at it his entire time he was here.
All my heroes are leaving. And that's just a truth of life, you know, as you get older, all the heroes and all the people you grew up watching and idolizing and really just being a part of your life, just move on.
He's the same age as William Shatner.
Oh.
Or was.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about something about William Shatner? Because you made a decision today.
I did. And it was funny because it started out as not an easy one to make, but then quickly became an easy one. So Shatner was here in Knoxville, I guess about a year or so ago. And
yes, I remember that.
And Jared and Matt were like, you should go. And I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to pay money. Just go stand next to him for 2 seconds. And I was like, you know, the situation didn't appeal to me. And so my Facebook feed, I think I'm one of the few people still using Facebook, pointed out that I knew he was on tour for his new documentary, Call Me Bill. And it had new event added. And it was for Lexington, Kentucky. And Lexington, Kentucky is only 2.5 hours away from me. That's less time than it takes to get to Nashville. And I looked at it. It was October 4th. And I was like, oh my gosh, I could do this. I could drive up there, do the thing, come back. I looked at the packages that were available, $50 general admission, which isn't really that bad. And then they had,
because you're watching the documentary also, right?
Yeah. And then he does his, his
Q&A.
spiel.
Yeah.
And then I saw that they had the opportunity to have a photo with him, and then also to receive a autographed item, poster, Blu-ray, DVD. So I thought, well, this is better. So I opted for the ticket, the photo with the autograph. So came out a little bit under $300, which isn't cheap, but I figure and the fact that us talking about James Earl Jones makes me even more like, I've been watching William Shatner since I remember watching TV.
Yeah, come on.
And this guy has been in my life, via TV and movie, obviously. And he's one of those people I enjoy watching being interviewed. He seems like a really interesting person. He's had a really interesting life. And I thought, yeah, I got to do this. But we're going out of town that weekend. So I was like, what? Oh, no. So I immediately start texting my wife and I'm like, what are we doing? What time are we leaving Saturday? So I figured we were going to be leaving. We're going to Carowinds that weekend. So I figured I get home. I drive up there. The event's supposed to be over by 10. I get home by 1. I get a couple hours of sleep, make the drive. So I asked her, I said, hey, do you care if I do this? And she's like, no, that's fine. She goes, and we're not leaving until like 8 on Saturday. And I'm like, well, even better. So that's going
to be quite an adventure. That's really cool.
Yeah, and I'm going by myself, which I'm actually kind of fine with. I don't have to worry about anyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can I'm going to go to work, leave early, get in my car, and just go.
Now, I'm curious. I'm sorry. Yeah, we'll get to James Earl Jones in a moment.
Well, I think it relates because actually me just looking up his age and then looking up Shatner's age, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're the same age. Yeah. So I'm like, this is like something I need to do now. Because I mean, Shatner, he looks great. You see him in an interview, he still seems to have energy, but I mean, he's 93.
Yeah. Well, I told you about when me and Mark went to see him last fall. And he was 92 at the time. And it was last fall. It was last November. And he was 92 and he had the energy and appeared to be a man in his 60s, which was really crazy. But James Earl Jones, 93 years old, a life well lived, very successful in his profession, very well regarded.
But I agree. At 93, you or I could be so lucky to live such a full life.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking back, not just on the obvious, because I mean, obviously, Star Wars would not have been what Star Wars was with like David Prowse voicing Vader. It was that booming, bassy, otherworldly voice of James Earl Jones, which made Darth Vader who he was.
Yes, absolutely. It would have actually been a tragedy if David Prowse had been allowed to voice Darth Vader. And, I think I'm going to drop in here for our listening audience some of the production audio from David Prowse and, the muffled Cockney accent coming from underneath the black helmet. And you'll just see how much of a difference James Earl Jones made.
This ship carries the crest of Alderaan. Was there any of the royal family on board? Who were you carrying? And action! Where is the data you intercepted? What have you done with those information tapes?
We intercepted no information. This is a consular ship, didn't you see the markings? We're on a diplomatic mission.
Where are those tapes?
When you hear David Prowse under the mask, it's not quite the same.
Yeah, and apparently, as legend has it, he was not made aware that he was being looped and did not know about it until he went to see it with his family.
What? Well, I mean, I see now. I don't know if I buy that, because did he ever step foot into a sound studio to re-record those lines? Or did he think they were going to use the "God, what the passengers, let's get them alive"?
I don't know. Like I said, that's why I said the term according to legend.
Again, there is no other voice for Darth Vader. So when I think of actors like James Earl Jones, with his voice and his presence. I put him in kind of like a very exclusive bucket. And I kind of think of actors like Gene Hackman, like Morgan Freeman. For example, these are kinds of actors that whatever they're in, they bring credibility to that movie, whether it be a comedy or a drama. If James Earl Jones was in that movie, it was going to be a higher quality picture just because he was in it.
No, yeah, I agree with that. And he did lots of those smaller supporting roles, especially in his later years. And I say later years, the 1990s.
No, but man,
So
his career really was I mean, he's had a long, rich career. Don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but the roles he got to play and take in the second half of his career were as meaningful, if not bigger, than the ones he had in the first half.
yes.
It's amazing. I was thinking of, and what I'd like to do, and Mike, if jump in too, is just kind of think about a few roles that he had outside of Darth Vader that I really remember and loved about James Earl Jones.
Well, yeah, what do you got? Tell me.
The first one that comes to mind, this is a movie that, now, children, if you're listening to this, I will explain what a VCR was. So one of the movies I watched over and over, and I don't know why, it wasn't like the best movie, but I liked it, was a movie that came out on HBO in like the early 90s called By Dawn's Early Light. You ever see that?
I've heard of this. I have not seen it.
So, HBO had a few original movies. I don't think it was ever in the theater. I think it was made for cable. But it was about how the United States was attacked with nuclear weapons and how the president of the United States was injured and kind of being ferried underground to try and keep him safe. And I think the Secretary of State wound up taking over, and he was he was hell bent on launching all nuclear missiles against Russia. And it was kind of like there's a couple stories happening all together. One involved the B-52 crew. One involved the president, and another one was the Secretary of State, who's about to start World War III and destroy the world. And James Earl Jones played kind of a small role in it, where he was in charge of. He was on one of the AWAC planes, and it was, and not to give it away, but if you haven't watched the movie by now, it's it's an old movie, so I'm going to spoil it. It was an awesome scene, and I want you to look it up. Okay. James Earl Jones in the AWAC plane, finally, the president of the United States finally makes communication with this plane and says, you've got to take out Air Force One any way possible before he can give orders to the submarines to launch the missiles. And it winds up, the second half of the movie is the AWAC plane tracking down and in the end colliding with Air Force One. And it's an amazing, amazing, amazing scene. And James Earl Jones is spectacular in this role. He's just spectacular. Albeit a small role.
Wow. His body of work, certainly before Star Wars. I'm not overly familiar, but I know he has been in the business for decades.
I did a little research, Jared.
All right, we'll bring it on.
It was when he was young. He went to live with his grandparents. I can't remember the situation, if it was, but what it was with his parents. But his grandparents lived on a farm, and he did not adapt well, which because I'd heard before that he had a stutter.
Yes,
when he was young, and that was why, because he did not acclimate to this new environment, and he basically went several years of his life without speaking. But apparently he wrote poetry, and there was a teacher who really liked his poems and convinced him to start reading his poems aloud. And that led to him speaking again. And then that's how he kind of got into theater. But also he enlisted, and he was in the military during the Korean War.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I don't think he ever went. I think he got stationed other places, but he he actually was in the military during that time. And then he, a lot of actors back then, is he started in theater, and then he went to
movies eventually.
Which another role. I don't know if he's well known for the being in it, but he was in Doctor Strangelove. But the thing about him, James Earl Jones, is there's that age when it's almost like if he doesn't have his glasses on, he's unrecognizable.
Yes.
He does not look like James Earl Jones as you picture him. And it's the same with him in Doctor Strangelove, is he doesn't look like James Earl Jones.
Yeah, that's true.
I think certainly this warrants a mention. And probably for me and Matt, basically from Star Wars on are the ones that had the impact on us. And Thulsa Doom certainly was one of those roles. The man
role.
turning into a snake, and one of the oddest transformations ever, as you see the James Earl Jones rubber mask start to contort into strange shapes and everything. But I did enjoy his performance in that, because there was something just he was very evil, but a different evil than Darth Vader.
He was very charismatic.
Yes.
I mean, his character's supposed to be, but he played it to the, right as he should. He was completely a charismatic, interesting character.
Yeah, absolutely. Thulsa Doom.
With that weird, like 1991
Oh.
Samantha Fox haircut.
With the bangs.
With the bangs.
And just completely bizarre, but a great role for him. And I think this was, early 80s. He was probably still leaning heavily into the Darth Vader. Hey, I'm going to play a heavy, I'll be a bad guy here. Except this time I'll be on camera with a terrible haircut. So
what's interesting, I mean, look, if you're a kid, you may have never seen Darth Vader or James Earl Jones as an actor. You might have seen him in like a weird Sesame Street production, but
yes.
Which, by the way, you should play that, him counting to 10 in Sesame Street. It's really weird.
Okay, well,
look up James Earl Jones Sesame Street counting to 10 and enjoy that.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
I remember every Sunday paper had this like mini paper in it called Parader or something like that.
Parade.
Yeah, Parade.
Yeah.
And I used to look through it, and every now and then I remember there was a picture from Star Wars. I don't think it actually was in Parade, but anyway, one issue of Parade had a picture of the throne room scene. It was a black and white picture. And I remember I cut it out and taped it up on something. But anyway, I was looking through a newspaper or something, and there was a picture of Mark Hamill with his arm around this guy, and they were both smiling. And I read the caption, and it said father and son, Mark Hamill with Darth Vader. Now, I don't know if it noted that it was just the voice or if it was actually the guy in the suit.
Uh-huh.
But it really doesn't matter because the voice is Darth Vader.
Sure.
And I have to be honest with you, I was surprised it was a black man.
Really?
I don't know why. It was just, I guess I just was like, oh, it's a black man. I mean, that's as far as I went with it.
But that's that you remember that's being your.
I remember being surprised that it was a black man who was doing the voice of Darth Vader. But the point of that is when I thought, oh, okay, I'd moved on. It was kind of surprising to me.
But think about it, like his voice, but I really wasn't familiar with him as an actor. I wasn't familiar with him as a face.
And then I think later on I learned, that there was a guy in the suit and David Prowse was the voice.
Yeah. Or James Earl Jones was the voice. You said David
James
Prowse.
Earl. Yeah.
Thank God Dave Dave Prowse wasn't the voice.
It's some alternate universe that's reversed.
Yeah,
It's David Prowse in the suit.
He's a shorter.
It's James Earl Jones in the suit, and David
He's
Prowse
a shorter,
does the voice.
rotund Darth Vader, and he goes, "And bring me the passengers. I want them alive."
He is certainly not a forgettable person. Like his voice and his face is as distinct and remarkable as his voice. So
when you see his face, he has a very amicable,
like a
countenance.
kind face.
Yeah, he has like this great smile.
Yes.
And again, it sounds contradictory because he's
that's
Darth Vader.
He's known for the most famous villain in movies.
I know, but when I see him as a person, it's like it doesn't click. His voice works as Darth Vader, but even with Darth Vader, he has his moment of redemption.
Yes.
So, but that probably doesn't make a lick of sense. But I'm just telling you.
Well,
hearing him, but see, it's almost like when you hear him as Darth Vader, it's his voice, but that's Darth Vader. And then you have James Earl Jones. It's like he's separate from Darth Vader.
Yes. But it's also, there's one great contradictory thing, and this is really interesting, is that James Earl Jones has done an audiobook of the Bible.
Yeah, he did the New Testament.
Yeah. And
it's Darth Vader
reading the Bible, which because
but they drop his voice.
Well, of course, for Vader, his voice is slightly modulated.
Well, not slightly in Jedi. In Jedi,
they really lower it. But I thought just for giggles, I played a little bit. It's on YouTube if you wanted to hear him read some of the Bible, and I played some of it for Terry, and she's like, she's like, he has such a lovely voice, but it's really strange hearing Darth Vader read the Gospels. And I was like, yeah, it is. It's kind of weird.
And his fame went throughout all Syria, and they brought unto him all sick people that were taken with divers disease and torments, and those which were possessed with devils, and those which were lunatic, and those that had the palsy, and he healed them. And there followed him great multitudes of people from Galilee, and from Decapolis, and from Jerusalem, and from Judea, and from beyond Jordan.
So when my daughter was young, before I started, feeding her a steady diet of Disney movies, I tried to, force Star Wars upon her, and by the time she became enchanted with The Lion King, I remember the first time she heard Mufasa talk, she was like, "Dad, is that Darth Vader's voice?"
Did she say that?
Yes. That's the exact reaction I wanted. So, and I gotta say, the last couple of days, with a lot of the outpouring of affection for James Earl Jones, I'm shocked. There's a lot of kids, adults now, but they associate him with Mufasa because they came up with The Lion King in the 90s.
Look, Simba, everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Wow.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, Simba, the sun will set on my time here and will rise with you as the new king.
And this'll all be mine?
Everything.
Everything the light touches.
That's certainly a role for which he'll be remembered. Also, I mean, of course, he had the iconic death scene where he's trampled by antelopes, and everybody was like, "Oh, this is more Disney films killing the parents."
Yeah,
and certainly a classic. I'm taking nothing away from The Lion King, but another movie outside of the Disney realm was that I really liked him in was Field of Dreams.
The best.
Mike, did you ever see Field of Dreams?
I have not, but I know he's in that.
I just saw that maybe a month ago. I was on and I watched it again. It's such a good
Yeah,
movie.
it is a great movie.
And
You know, it's one of
you forget how good that movie is. Like if you're not like super into that movie and you just kind of like
yeah.
happen on it, it's such a good movie.
I think now, Mike, as you're now a father to two boys, I think even if you're not, you know, necessarily a sports fan or whatever, you know, it's about baseball, and it is a really good movie about fathers and sons. As fathers, you watch differently. You know, I mean,
Yes.
it's my dad. He was in love with that movie when he was, you know, when he was in his, you know, when he was 40 or whatever when it came out, and he went to see it in the theater with my mom. But I remember him when he came back. He's like, you know, Jared, this is a movie you're really going to appreciate in about 20 years. And he goes because he goes, you're just not going to understand until you have kids of your own. I don't think you can be a father even if you don't have a son. If you got a daughter, you watch it and you feel like, oh man, you know that hits you in the feels.
Yep.
You know, gets you right in the heart. Um, you know, especially if you have a good relationship with your own father. You know, it's a great movie like that. But James Earl Jones in that movie, he's, you know, Kevin Costner's running around the country trying to find all these people, and the his character's name is Terrence Mann. He's an author of some note, and James Earl Jones through half the movie thinks Kevin Costner's nuts.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't want anything to do with him, and some of those scenes are quite funny, where you know he's just you know he's antagonizing Kevin Costner throughout, and then he finally sort of sees the light and understands, and he has a really great speech, and I've seen it shared a few times over the past few days.
Baseball.
Yeah, and when he talks, and the thing I like about it is that, you know, I thought about it sort of in the context of our show and what we do. You know, he talks a lot about, you know, nostalgia, and it's how these things make you feel. And you could apply to anything, like the stuff we talk about, like the old movies and TV shows that we loved and stuff like that. I mean, he specifically is talking about baseball, but you could almost substitute anything else in there, and the speech has like meaning to it. And it's
His delivery, his voice, his delivery. That speech is what makes that movie really memorable. That's the key
Mhm.
moment of that whole movie is when he delivers it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, if you haven't heard it, don't worry because check it out now.
Ray, people will come, Ray. They'll come to Iowa for reasons they can't even fathom. They'll turn up your driveway, not knowing for sure why they're doing it. They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past. Of course, we won't mind if you look around, you'll say. It's only $20 per person. They'll pass over the money without even thinking about it. For it is money they have, and peace they like. And they'll walk out to the bleachers, and sit in shirt sleeves on a perfect afternoon. They'll find they have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines, where they sat when they were children and cheered their heroes. And they'll watch the game, and it'll be as if they'd dipped themselves in magic waters. The memories will be so thick, they'll have to brush them away from their faces. People will come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball. America has rolled by like an army of steamrollers. It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again. But baseball has marked the time. This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again. Oh, people will come, Ray. People will most definitely come.
I think now, Mike, as you're now a father to two boys, I think even if you're not, necessarily a sports fan or whatever, it's about baseball, and it is a really good movie about fathers and sons, and I think that you would connect with it in some way just based on your kind of
Well,
your lived experience.
it's funny because I'm actually starting to get into baseball
Okay.
through my son. I've been going to baseball with my brother and father and my youngest son. We've made that like a thing that every couple of
Yeah.
weeks we go to a Smokies game, and and it's kind of interesting that I've
I
kind of got sucked into it.
Speaking of baseball, he rode the baseball wave, didn't he? I mean,
Yes, he did.
appeared in The Sandlot.
The Sandlot.
Another generational classic movie now.
Yeah, and I saw the Sandlot came out in 93, and I was already, 18 years old, and
Yeah.
it was probably skewed a little younger.
Yes.
But I did end up seeing it on VHS, not too long after its theatrical run, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And he plays a real kind of son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And the neighborhood guy everybody's afraid of. And it, like Matt said, riding that baseball wave there. But the Sandlot, it's just a fun movie anyway, and it sort of harkens back to, in a sort of like a Stand By Me type of way that
Completely.
the
Narration,
yeah, just sort of
it's
the
a
longing.
time period piece. It's a period piece, so you can always go
Yes.
back, and it doesn't age out because it's already aged.
Yeah,
So,
because it
perfect.
takes place in the late 50s, I think, or the early 60s. So, but it's also a great movie, and James Earl Jones is great in it, and he has quite a nice turn, and it goes from, being an antagonist to an ally by the end of the film, and it's a lot of fun. But how about what else before we, crack open the Star Wars nut? What else? What other roles stand out?
I mean, of course, when I said that he brings credibility to movies, Coming to America is a good example because
Yes.
with the hyper silliness of Eddie Murphy in Arsenio Hall, you have the presence of James Earl Jones coming in as his father, and albeit a funny comedy, and his role even is a funny role, he brings like some seriousness to it. Like you don't ever deny that he has like a presence about him in this movie.
Yeah,
and he was fun. He was funny in the movie. He was great.
absolutely. He was one of the best parts of that movie. And Coming to America is a funny movie. It's a great
So
movie.
good. Those early
And
Eddie Murphy movies are classics.
now I never did watch the straight to Netflix sequel, but I know like he was in that, and like everybody came back.
Oh, I
And
didn't even know that
Arsenio
existed.
Hall, yeah, Arsenio Hall is in it, and apparently has made a deal with Satan to preserve himself in amber because he looks exactly the same.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's
I mean,
funny.
I never saw it, but I don't. I did like the recent Beverly Hills Cop sequel, so I don't know. But yeah, he was in that, and he would have been, James Earl Jones would have been like 90 when that came out.
Yeah, that's true.
So, one role I enjoyed him in, I don't know if of course you've seen Hunt for Red October and
so good.
the Harrison Ford, Jack Ryan movies.
Yeah. I was never here.
Yeah. Admiral Greer.
I saw it a long time ago, and I really don't remember much about it. I remember I liked it. I do remember liking it. I just don't remember much about it.
Okay.
Admiral Greer. Yeah. You know what? You're right. It's that movie was such a big part of my high school years, and I completely forgot about it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. At least watch your back, Jack.
Watch your back, Jack.
Yeah. He's really good in those movies, and like you said, bringing that credibility.
Yeah.
Like, I have no doubts. Yeah, this guy's an admiral. I mean, it's just he has the presence, and he plays it so. He doesn't play it like big. He just plays it like a guy. But you totally buy that this man is an admiral, and he was in. He was in
Danger, right?
Yeah, he was in 3 of them. He did Hunt for Red October, and then they recast Alec Baldwin with Harrison Ford, and he did Patriot Games and Clear and Present Danger as well. which, and his character passed away in Clear and Present Danger.
Yeah.
And I remember he had cancer in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those scenes of him in the hospital, I was like, holy crap. I bought it, and
It's funny. People don't put those together, Red October, Clear and Present Danger and Patriot Games as a trilogy kind of, but with but those are great movies. Like those are
they are
spectacular movies.
100%. I mean, and he's kind of the glue too, because they recast pretty much everybody else. Everybody around him was recast, but he remained Admiral Greer throughout the three.
Yeah.
And
that sounding board for Jack Ryan in that movie.
Yeah. And and look, if you haven't seen Hunt for Red October or the Patriot Games or Clear and Present Danger, get your life together.
Especially Red October. I mean, what a great movie Red October was.
Sean Connery, fantastic. Marco Ramius.
So good.
And Alec Baldwin is good in that movie too.
He was great in that movie. The whole cast.
Yeah. Let's see here.
He was sprinkled in TV. They put him in like TV shows and stuff. I keep watching, to your point, there's been a lot of clips of him going around recently.
Yes.
And they keep showing one from oh God, what's the name of that show?
Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory, where where the guy finds him in the restaurant. And they wind up becoming like little quick friends, and they prank Carrie Fisher by like going
to her
house.
Yes.
It's so dumb.
Whose house is this?
Carrie Fisher. And she's a little crazy, so get ready to run.
It's not funny anymore, James!
Then why am I laughing?
Star Wars.
Okay, let's get there.
Isn't it amazing when you think about the impact his career has had on kids? He's had 50 years of being a part of kids' lives. When you think about it, I mean, we're going to always remember him. We're the first generation to watch Star Wars as kids, as like little kids. We grew up with his voice.
Yeah.
Then you have, to your point, the next generation grew up listening to The Lion King, his voice.
Yeah.
There's people that worship The Sandlot from kids. It's like he's all over our childhood.
True.
For generations. He's made an impact. It's an interesting thing. He's
been a
part of some big things.
I think by the time he did Star Wars, which is sort of where all this started for us, he was already he's already in his 40s.
Yeah.
He'd already had a complete career. He didn't even want to be credited on Star Wars.
I'd always heard, I knew that he did not accept, he requested that his name not be put on the credits for the first two movies. And especially the first one.
For Star Wars.
And it didn't have anything to do with him not wanting to be associated with it. Apparently, when The Exorcist was made, they had an actress come in and read for the part, basically as the devil, when speaking through Linda Blair.
Yes.
And I guess there was this big controversy of whether she should be credited or not, because she was kind of viewed, having a person do that was viewed as a special effect.
Interesting.
So he said he did not believe she should have been credited for that reason. So I guess when it came to Star Wars, it was putting his money where his mouth was. So he declined to have his name added to the credits for Star Wars.
Wow.
And that's why he didn't do it. Well, it didn't have anything to do with him not wanting to be associated with the role. Also, he said I think I read too, it was one day's work.
Yeah. Yeah.
He came in for one day.
Yeah. It was like 3 hours or something.
And I also read that Lucas offered him a percentage and he took the flat rate.
$7,000.
Yeah.
I think it was.
But you can't really fault him for that either, because who knew?
Yeah. He's probably thinking, well, a percentage of nothing, still nothing, George.
James, you want to come over here?
Gotta make a lot of money.
So
I'm gonna sniff my hand.
So I don't know the story of why Lucas cast him, but I do know he said that after Jedi came out, he was like, "Well, I guess I might as well," because the role had become like iconic.
Sure.
I mean, that you have to think what a strange thing. You come in for 3 hours of work, and it's like your career defining moment.
Yeah, I mean it's certainly one of many things he's remembered for, but probably the thing when you boil it down. And um, with Star Wars, I had heard that Lucas was wanting someone like Orson Welles to do uh, the voice of Darth Vader. And I don't know, I can't remember if it was a commentary or some documentary or one of those giant making of books that they brought out, but there was sort of a story behind his casting, and I wish I could recall that, but it certainly worked out for the best.
Oh yeah.
Man, James Earl Jones in Star Wars. As a kid, he everybody had a Darth Vader impression.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the first impressions I ever did. Where you're going, I'm your father, and all that stuff.
I mean, in Halloween, how many times are you dressing as a villain?
Yeah.
But you wanted to be the hero, but everybody wanted to be Darth Vader.
Everybody wanted to be Darth Vader.
And he's the one bad guy that you, as a kid, you wanted to see more screen time with. Like, you wanted more Darth Vader.
Yes, we wanted more Darth Vader. And, I just going through and I was doing sort of a checklist in my head before we started recording, because I'd love to drop some sound drops in here, just about some of my favorite lines from
It's funny that you say
Darth
that,
Vader.
by the way.
Okay.
Because when we just started talking about this, the first thing that popped in my head was when I was in college and the interwebs were new.
Yes.
One of the hot things to do was to find wave files. Like, they had those like sites that people would put up waves.
Sound America.
And I had a slew of Darth Vader quotes that my Windows 95 computer would frequently yell at me if I, you go into a program, it's,
yes.
I find your lack of faith disturbing. Every time something went in the trash, but
yes,
my whole computer was a Darth Vader sound effect.
Yeah, like every time the error message would, the error tone would be like what? What? Just I did the same thing. I thought, man, when I discovered that you could customize those sounds on Windows, oh man, I did it to my dad's computer and he got so pissed. He was like, okay. He's like, you gotta change this back. It's just too much.
I know that sounds really lame right now, but back then in like the early to mid 90s, that was the best.
No, man.
It's like you unlocked something that had been hidden from you like for ages. And it's like, it was great.
Absolutely. I mean, God, you have a Darth Vader computer? Come on.
It was great.
One of my favorite lines, one of my favorite line deliveries of his was criminally excised from one of the special editions. And it's right after he fights with Luke on Cloud City. And, Luke has just forsaken him and jumped off the ledge, and Vader probably thinks he's dead. And he's walking along with some stormtroopers, and he just says,
"Bring my shuttle."
That is like one of my favorite Darth Vader lines, because it's very, he's angry, he's pissed, he's just like, hey, do this. And it's, of course, replaced in the special edition with this long, overly expository.
Yeah.
Alert my Star Destroyer to prepare for my arrival.
And I was just like,
and it sounds off.
Yeah. And I was like, this sounds like it was, and it probably was, recorded decades later. It doesn't sound, it sounds like James Earl Jones, but it doesn't sound like the James Earl Jones of that era. And it's just off. And to this day, I don't understand the reasoning behind that.
I think one of my favorite Darth Vader lines was in A New Hope when he, Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans.
Commander, tear this ship apart until you found those plans and bring me the passengers. I want them alive.
I mean, look, I think the writing was great, especially for his lines. It was perfect.
Yeah.
There'll be nothing to stop us this time. You know, the great lines that he got to deliver was amazing. And to your point, what we said earlier, to hear David Prowse mumble these things through the mask makes it even funnier.
Bring me passengers. I want them alive.
One of the things I liked about Vader is he did have a layer of sarcasm. Like he could throw out a burn, you know, like as you wish, you know, and he's like killing somebody, and you know, Tarkin that's like yells at him. He's like, let him go, and Vader just kind of goes, as you wish. It's like, okay, nope. And he has that throughout, like
apology accepted.
Yes, he's kind of, and I guess it kind of links him to Anakin.
Yeah.
But he like Empire is a blast to watch. If you watch those Imperial officers around him, and they're like terrified of him, but yet as threatening and I mean, he's almost on a murderous rampage in his own ranks, but he's still, and it's James Earl Jones, he still has that almost calming sound when he's like, you know, there's a couple times when he like, you know, when he's get my shuttle, or when he calls Ozzel and he is pissed. And like he doesn't even, he always says, you failed me for the last time.
Yeah.
And then he just starts talking to Piet. And meanwhile, he's strangling this guy. But you know, and then you know, when Ozzel, not Ozzel, who's the Viet?
Admiral Piet or Captain Piet. And then there's General Veers.
Veers, when Veers comes to him and he's as clumsy as he is stupid.
Yeah, like when Veers walks in there and says,
he knows what Veers did was, he knows what Ozzel did is stupid. So he's got to basically go and tell what his stupid boss just did.
He felt surprised. Surprised was wiser.
What is it, General?
My lord, the fleet has moved out of Lightspeed. Comscan has detected an energy field protecting an area of the 6th planet of the Hoth system. The field is strong enough to deflect any bombardment.
The rebels are alerted to our presence. Admiral Ozzel came out of Lightspeed too close to the system.
He felt surprised was wiser.
He is as clumsy as he is stupid. General, prepare your troops for a surface attack.
Yes, my lord.
Lord Vader, the fleet has moved out of Lightspeed and we're preparing to...
You have failed me for the last time, Admiral. Captain Piet.
Yes, my lord.
Make ready to land our troops beyond their energy field, then deploy the fleet so that nothing gets off the system. You are in command now, Admiral Piet.
Thank you, Lord Vader.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because for years and years, you know, we almost were saddened that we weren't going to get any new Darth Vader lines. Like what was out there was out there. And you had people imitate the lines. You had some video games come up with some very good imitators, by the way. There's some people out there that are spot on to James Earl Jones as Darth Vader. But I always kind of lamented that, like, what we have is all we're going to have. And then we got Rogue One.
Well, before Rogue One, we had a very infamous line. Okay,
what
we can.
Bad me.
Yeah,
we could. It's not great. It's not great.
Well, you know, I think we all knew in Revenge of the Sith we were going to hear his voice.
Maybe some quality lines is what I'm saying. Like
it was, you know, but I will say, and I got to give that an honorable mention because it's completely infamous by now. And it's been memed and mocked 1,000 ways. to Sunday, the infamous
So lame. It was not good. And that movie wasn't that bad, but I always felt that the Frankenstein monster coming up from the table was not as
was a little on the
bit of a letdown.
nose. Yeah. And but it was nice to hear his voice. But I think after that, we're like, well, that's it. I mean, they're not making Revenge of the Sith was the last Star Wars movie for a long time. For a good 15 years. And then we had Rogue One in 2016. Now, we all thought, well, maybe because I mean, I knew before the movie came out, we kind of were familiar with the setting,
right?
Like this was going to be the capture of the Death Star plans right before New Hope, and we speculated, well, maybe we'll see the Death Star, maybe we'll see the Emperor and Vader, and maybe we'll see Tarkin, because they're certainly big players, and we did get most of that, but when Vader shows up in his castle on Mustafar and talks to Director Krennic, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, those are some good lines.
And I think
lines.
I think we were hearing the age in his voice.
A little bit.
Yeah.
You were not summoned here to grovel, Director Krennic.
No,
There is no Death Star. The Senate has been informed that Jeddah was destroyed in a mining disaster.
Yes, my lord.
I expect you not to rest until you can assure the Emperor that Galen Erso has not compromised this weapon in any way.
But it didn't really, it didn't diminish the fact that you knew that was James Earl Jones.
Right.
It lent an authenticity. He's obviously well into his 80s when he recorded that, and he also did come back for a few episodes of Star Wars Rebels. He had more lines in those few episodes than he did almost in one of the entire original trilogy movies.
I know I've sung this from the rooftops, but Rebels was a great show.
Yeah,
it really was a great show. If you haven't watched Rebels as a Star Wars fan, you're missing out. You got to watch it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
100%. There was a showdown with Ahsoka and Darth Vader. And you get to hear James Earl Jones say things like, "The apprentice lives."
Yeah.
And it's just awesome. And we thought, well, heck, that there's a little more that, and this was before Rogue One. And but of course it was,
was it?
Yeah. Rebels was like 2014, 2015. But it was no less awesome because he was doing the voice.
It was foretold that you would be here. Our long-awaited meeting has come at last.
I'm glad I gave you something to look forward to.
We need not be adversaries. The Emperor will show you mercy if you tell me where the remaining Jedi can be found.
There are no Jedi. You and your Inquisitors have seen to that.
Perhaps this child will confess what you will not.
I was beginning to believe I knew who you were behind that mask, but it's impossible. My master could never be as vile as you.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
I've got to bring this up now. I know that we have the Kenobi series was widely, derided for certain choices, but the Kenobi technically was his last performance as Vader. He did record the lines, and the lines were then enhanced with AI to make him sound like he did, 30 years ago, which I thought for the most part was pretty effective.
Yeah.
The one thing I would say the Kenobi series did right, for the most part, was Darth Vader. There's that great scene of him walking down the town square and he's like snapping people's necks with the Force.
Right.
And, he drags a woman on the ground behind him while she's screaming. And despite the fact that it serves little narrative purpose, the whole scene with where you see Hayden Christensen's face after his helmet's been cut open, and the way his voice
splice it in,
it goes between his voice and James Earl Jones's voice.
Yeah.
I think it's just a really cool
I agree.
effect.
Yeah.
Anakin's gone. I am what remains. I am not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did. The same way, I will destroy you.
You take those moments in isolation and they're really cool. I mean, the show itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but just those moments in isolation, especially because James Earl Jones was a part of them, I think is kind of cool. But
I think you can look universally at all of Star Wars, and Darth Vader as a character hasn't fallen down too much. He's been all right.
Yeah.
They've kept him they've kept him pretty true.
But here's something I wonder if, I think we have a right to be concerned.
I know what you're going to say. I can tell.
Because James Earl Jones himself, before he passed away, probably about a year ago, he said, Kenobi is my last performance as Darth Vader. He goes, but I have granted Lucasfilm the right to use my voice after I'm gone to continue to give voice to Darth Vader, which can be cool and also ghoulish.
I think it's okay. I think it's okay. It's the fact that it's a voice attached to Darth Vader and not a face.
Yeah.
Makes it, I think, a little easier. And there is no other voice for Darth Vader. I mean, even if it's not James Earl Jones's voice being reused through AI and it's an actor imitating, it's someone imitating his inflection. So it's like, either way, it's a James Earl Jones's voice representation for that character. So you might as well use the original and make the best you can out of it.
And especially since before he died, he gave his blessing.
Yeah.
And apparently they are cutting his estate a nice check every time that's done.
Well, that's great.
Which is probably why he agreed to it. Well, hey, you're going to put my great grandkids through college. So that's fine.
Again, there is no other voice for Darth Vader. So you might as well, use the best. So
I don't think it totally worked with young Mark Hamill on Mandalorian, because the voice, while Mark Hamill's was so monotone and robotic, it was hard to, it's hard to lend emotion to a computer. They're getting better.
But that goes straight to not only they don't have to just emulate his voice, they have to emulate his performance.
Yeah, that's true.
And what, from my money, one of the best guys I've heard do it is the guy that they got to do Battlefront. That guy does a really excellent Darth Vader, almost passable as James Earl Jones at some points.
There's some people out there that are spot on to James Earl Jones as Darth Vader.
But then that prompts another question. At what point do we just move on?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a question
because I think when they first got this franchise, their plan was to move on.
Yeah.
But everything was
But
not successful.
the problem is everything they've made that's been a success has been firmly rooted in the original trilogy era. The Mandalorian, Rogue One, and I think those are the things that are sort of universally praised by fans across the board.
I agree. Yeah.
I'm curious. I think there's a Darth Vader story you can still tell, maybe with Hayden Christensen, and of course, at this point, you would have to use an AI performance of maybe have Christensen speak the lines and make them sound like James Earl Jones. That would sort of be, I think that would be interesting, but I'd have to see how that worked. I wonder if, because we know that it's a trick now, we know that James Earl Jones is gone, would that impact how we heard it? Would it like our eyes tell us that Bilbo Baggins is no longer with us, but we're watching him on the movie screen?
Yeah.
Would our ears also say, it's close, but it's not quite there? And you're right. And when do you just say, let's put it to bed? Let's just say we've told these stories and now we're going to go off and do something else.
I think you can look universally at all of Star Wars, and Darth Vader as a character hasn't fallen down too much. He's been all right. They've kept him pretty true.
I would feel a little better about it if I trusted the leadership at Lucasfilm a little more.
Well, let's just
how about we bring him back in Acolyte season 2?
Well, I've heard there's a petition out for Acolyte season 2.
Let's go. Maybe they'll get James Earl Jones to do AI vocalizations for that. And no, oh man. Anyway, oh gosh.
Hey, look. Maybe they've. You can only hope. You can only hope that they've learned a few lessons.
Yeah.
And,
hey, look.
They've taken a few lumps, and they've got shows like Andor season 2 coming out.
Correct.
And even though Andor didn't get the best ratings because it wasn't the most watched show, it was a quality show.
Absolutely. Tony Gilroy, the writer, he was very solid. And I don't know if they'll go there, but Andor season 2, if it's leading you right up to the doorstep of Rogue One,
you may see him.
There's no reason to think.
We know Krennic is in it.
Krennic is in it. Of course, they're bringing back Saw Gerrera. K2SO is going to be in it. Saw Gerrera. Lies. Exceptions. Every day, more lies. Forrest Whitaker. Yes.
Damn, I can't wait. But yeah, Andor's a great show. So, maybe Disney can right the ship and, look, you can't fault a company for putting the gas down if they feel that they've got some track ahead of them to race on. Mm-hmm. I get it. But at the same time, hopefully in a post-Acolyte Kenobi Boba Fett world, they can maybe say, guys, let's slow it down and maybe put some quality out instead of quantity.
Well, let me tell my funny Darth Vader story, and I'm sure I've told it before, but I have to tell it.
Tell it.
Once more. When I was a kid, we went to the beach, and my uncle, every time we'd visit Pennsylvania, would buy me some Star Wars figures, and he bought me a Darth Vader. And I remember I took it into the ocean, and my friend who was with us he goes, "Here, can I have one of your Star Wars figures?" I'm like, "No, you can't. You're going to lose it." No, I won't lose it. I won't lose it. No. So he went and told on me, and my mom was like, "Let him have one of your Star Wars figures." And I'll be gosh darned if we weren't out there for 10 seconds and he's like, "Oh, I dropped it." And it was my Darth Vader and it was gone. So somewhere in the ocean, all right, maybe it washed up. There's a Darth Vader. I never got another one. That was my one and only Darth Vader. And
man,
I lost it.
Wow. I think I know what I'm getting you for Christmas, Mike.
Put some seaweed on it or something.
Yeah, like sand it, put a bunch of sand and junk on it. Oh man. Wow. Well, I do remember you telling that story on the hyperspace, but it was a long time ago. So
let's just say this is a sad day for Star Wars fans. Sad day for the industry itself. I think they lost a pretty good guy who seemed to enjoy what he was doing.
I mean, look, the good news is that for the most part, Star Wars with Disney is in the timeline that we all like. And that means that there's a really good chance we're going to get a little more Darth Vader, which means that we may be graced with, albeit an AI ghostly voice of James Earl Jones, we still may hear that familiar timbre again.
Yes. And, something about that is, it's reassuring.
It is. I mean,
and
he's always been there. He's that blanket. He's the blanket.
Yeah, he is. He's that Linus blanket that we carry around. And I like what you said earlier, Matt. You made a point that he has been with almost every subsequent generation all the way up through, the present day. I mean, starting in the mid 70s is when we were kids.
Not many actors you can point at and say that's right. That voice is part of my life.
And Mike, you better hope we're not recording one of these shows about Shatner in the next couple of weeks, because you're going to miss your chance. But no,
Bill.
I think it's great.
Hang in there for a couple more weeks.
I think it's great that you're doing that. That's going to be awesome. James Earl Jones, rest in peace.
The best.
And he brought us much joy, and we celebrate him here on the Hyperspace. And you know what else, guys? We celebrate you, our listening audience. Thank you for sticking with us. Matt and Mike, we are now in our 6th year.
I think it's 6. Didn't we start?
Well, we started in 2019. So.
Oh yeah, okay.
June of 2019.
Oh, you're thinking about the old calendar.
As it's measured in the old calendar, yes. I can understand why you would add a year with this new strange calendar we're on now in the 25th century. We'll
work the way you think, guys.
No, but
anyway,
we've
been here a long time. We
have, and we've still got more coming for you. We're popping in every once in a while, dropping some shows, but we're going to get back on some sort of consistent schedule. Maybe in the next 8 years or so. We'll see. But in the meantime, go watch a James Earl Jones film. Listen to a James Earl Jones audiobook, or just make sure your Windows 95 machine is all pimped out with James Earl Jones. And anyway, we thank you for listening. We want you to tell your friends and tell their friends and leave a review. Follow us on socials. We got great social media. You never even seen anything like it. But anyway, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will see you next time.
See you. The category, ladies and gentlemen, New Year's Eve, top 10 effects of Y2K. That's the category. We're looking right down the barrel of the gun tonight. This is what everybody has been worried about. This is what everybody has been concerned about. This is what everyone has been preparing for. Top 10 effects of Y2K. And now, here to present tonight's top 10 list, one of the great actors of our time, James Earl Jones. James? Here we go. Top 10 effects of Y2K. Here we go. Number 10.
Stuff's gonna explode.
Yeah! Number 9.
The Big Dipper will fall out of the sky and kill a guy in Sweden.
Number 8.
Everyone's voice will suddenly sound exactly like mine.
Some good will come of it. Number 7.
Michael Jackson will finally look in the mirror and say, "My God, what the hell is wrong with me?"
Number 6.
There will be a new letter added to the English alphabet. Ngipi.
What of that? Yeah, you have any idea where that one will go? Number 5.
A computer glitch will force Bill Gates to pay off every American's credit card.
Hot diggity. Go nuts. Number 4.
No more answering the phone by saying, yellow.
Number 3.
Every kid will lose interest in that Pokemon crap.
Number 2.
Ricky Martin will become even more mantastic.
Oh, come on. That's not possible. And the number 1 effect of Y2K,
despite assurances from high-ranking officials that it could not happen, refuting decades of conventional scientific wisdom, flying in the face of smug predictions by so-called experts, Kraft macaroni and cheese will become even cheesier.
You know you can't live without this content, so subscribe to The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us here next time as we take you into the 25th century.